Hey guys, welcome to another Triple T Thursday. For those just joining us, that's Tools, Tips, and Talk, where we'll talk about info for the knife maker. On today's episode, I've got a viewer here, Jared, and we're going to go through grinding basics and how to grind and how to do freehand grinding. And I'm going to start on this chef knife, which is actually Sunday's build. So stay tuned Sunday and you'll see this completed. But let's go to the grinder, try this out, and we'll take you guys through it. Okay folks, before we even start the grinder, let's talk about planning for this grind. First thing, of course, you want to put a scribe line down the center of your blade, or two lines almost close to the center. And this is so you know where you're grinding to. You don't want your bevel too far on one side or the other. So this is critically important. Okay, you're going to be grinding with the edge up, and I'm going to show you how to use the rest. I use a rest because I don't have good control when the knife is against the platen like this. It tends to pop up and down. So for me, the best thing, and this is the way I teach other people, use the rest. You can just sit the knife on the rest and just drag it back and forth. So let's talk about body control. So you don't want to be just moving the knife like this. You notice how my arms are flowing. You don't want that. What you want is your arms almost locked to your side. Your elbows should be at about 90 degrees. And then what you're going to be doing is moving your whole body back and forth. Okay? This hand, the hand that's in front of your push hand, call it that, is going to be the one doing all of the pressure, all of the pushing. This hand, all it's doing is pulling the knife back and forth. Okay? If you start pushing with this one, what's going to happen is you're going to start to either push here or push here, and you'll get uneven grinds. So this hand does the pushing, this hand does the pulling. Next thing is how to start. So I've got a used belt on here, and I'm going to explain why. The first thing you're going to do is set that initial bevel. And I'll put some graphics in the corner here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You're going to do this at about a 25 degree, maybe a 30 degree, probably a close to a 25 degree angle. Okay, and you're just going to put a little bevel there. Okay, and then you're going to go back and forth, and you basically want a flat spot. And your job now is to use your thumb, okay, pushing here, and just widening that flat spot. And you'll see what I mean by the graphics here. Eventually, it's going to be flat enough where you can just hold the knife there like this, and it's just going to want to sit on that flat spot. Then to move the bevel up the knife, all you're going to do is move your thumb down. And what that's going to do is put more pressure on the bottom. So when you want to move the bevel up higher on the knife or down lower when it's this way, you're just going to move your thumb lower. And if you need to do the edge more, you're just going to move your thumb up. Let's try this out.
The blade I'm showing you guys how to grind is actually CPM 154 stainless steel, and it's already been hardened. So this goes a little slower than it normally would because this thing is hardened to 62 HRC after the temper. Check out Sunday's build video and you'll see why I decided to harden this blade before I did any grinding. Here I've jumped forward a couple of minutes just because the blade's hardened and this took way longer than it normally does.
Okay, I've set that initial bevel. It's about almost a ½ inch. But now it's at the point where I can pretty much put my thumb against that bevel and it wants to sit there. You'll notice if I do this, okay, it kind of snaps back. And really, this is the hardest part. because it's such a narrow area, you're going to want to naturally move the knife a little bit like this. But once you get a nice even plane and there's no facets here, then we can move on to the next step. And again, this is the hardest part. But now we can switch to a new belt. And the reason we started with an old belt was because when you're doing a steep angle like this, it tends to knock all the abrasives off your belt. So it ruins new belts. So that's why it's good to use a new belt for this step. So now I'm going to put a brand new belt on, and we're going to go to the next step. Okay, so I've got one of Broadbeck's incinerator belts on, which are awesome if you're looking for 2x72 belts, especially ones for hogging off a lot of material. This is the belt to get. So we're going to now just keep going and move this bevel down this blade or up the blade, however you're holding it. And again, I'm just going to be, watch my finger, my thumb, I'm going to be moving it down and pressing it to change that angle. So just some other tips. Once it's this big, it's really easy. Again, the wider the bevel is, it's much easier because now I'm actually pushing with both my finger and my thumb. And when I want it to move down, I can just push with my finger and that'll kind of flatten out the bevel this way. And don't worry about making, like, I don't know if you can see it, but I have a bit of a divot here, but that's fine because I haven't gone to my line yet. And I'm just going to keep going. One important aspect, when you're putting the blade up to the grinder, you guys can't quite see this, but I'm looking down from the top and I'm looking down the belt. So I can see when I'm putting the belt up against it. And don't be afraid to kind of move the belt a bit sideways as you're going up, move the blade a bit sideways as you're going up to the belt. And you can just kind of go up gently. You don't have to push hard as soon as you get there. But because you want to make sure you don't do this or do this, okay, when you address the belt, you want to make sure you're really flat. And once you're there, and you could just hold it lightly there, and then you're just pulling back and forth. So we put Jared to work on the grinder. This is his third knife. What did you learn so far, Jared?
Learning to not be afraid of the grinder. From having zero experience with the tool itself, and coming up to it and, really shaky and wobbly to, actually last night, putting this final finish on, being able to, address it and not be afraid of, what was going to happen, feeling like I had some purpose behind it. The pressure with the thumb, I think the tool rest stuff was absolutely a great suggestion. Did a world of difference in what I was able to put out. I think overall I'm super pleased with, what transpired from this thing. So
that's awesome, Jared. We'll get some close-ups of the knife so viewers can take a look. And thanks for joining me in the shop.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me on this Triple T, folks, on Grinding Basics. I hope you got something out of it. Had a fun time having Jared in the shop and taking him through some of those basics as well. Look forward to this blade on Sunday, and we'll see you on the next one, guys.